Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be taking a pretty popular K-pop YouTube trend that's been going around recently and putting my own positive spin on it. I've seen a bunch of videos specifically centered around groups that people think have quote-unquote fallen off. And while I don't really care if people think that certain groups have fallen off, I definitely have disagreed with a lot of the videos that I've seen. So today, I'll be doing some commentary on groups that a lot of people say have quote-unquote fallen off, and talk about why I personally disagree. As always, this is just based on my opinion, and anybody's allowed to share their opinion, so if you have your own that you want to talk about, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And without further ado, let's start this video by talking about group number 1. So first off, we have TWICE, who a lot of people say have been falling off ever since More and More. And TWICE are one of the groups that I'm most adamant about saying they haven't fallen off, because in the last 2 or 3 years, their music overall has gotten so much better than what they used to put out. I will say I understand the people who say that their title tracks nowadays aren't nearly as iconic as they used to be. I mean, More and More and Scientist will never be nearly as iconic as, say, Cheer Up or Likey, but what people don't realize is that TWICE's B-sides have gotten astronomically better since 2019. I mean, let's be real, if you listen to most of TWICE's album pre-Fancy era, they all have at least 3 or 4 skips on them, at least in my opinion, but I can't say the same about their more recent works. I understand that not everybody likes Scientist, but Formula of Love is hands down my favorite TWICE album of all time, because the fact is, their albums back in 2017 did not have songs nearly as good as Espresso and Real You. Their title tracks definitely don't have the same kind of energy that they used to have, but I honestly really love the way TWICE and their music have matured over the years. And just their past 5 or 6 albums are way more cohesive than anything they released in their first 3 years. Yes, they might not have as much traction with the Korean general public, but their international fan base has done nothing but grow, and their popularity is well deserved with how good their music has been recently. Second off for this video, we have the Boyz, who people think have been falling off ever since Thrill Ride, and I really do not understand where this narrative came from. I feel like maybe the Boyz make choices with their concepts for each comeback that people don't vibe with every single time, but no matter what kind of concept they go for, what they do every single time is commit to it 1000%. First of all, if we strip everything down to just the visuals, Thrill Ride might be my favorite comeback of 2021 overall, with Maverick not too far behind. I mean, their designers, whether it comes to their sets or their outfits, literally never miss. And even when looking at the music, I feel like the Boyz' title tracks at the very least are always so clean. The instrumentals and vocal lines always feel like they have purpose behind them, and the production is so crisp where even if I didn't like the title tracks, which I do, I would still respect the song overall. Contrary to a lot of groups, even from the big 4 honestly, the Boyz' music always sounds expensive at the very least, with the vocal mixing never sounding low budget or out of place, which makes everything about the Boyz as a musical group sound professional. And just to add on top of that, their B-sides have gotten better compared to their earlier years as well. I genuinely think tracks like Dancing Till We Drop, Hypnotized, and Russian Roulette outsell probably every single B-side from their first 3 or 4 mini-albums, at the very least, which makes me kind of believe that people are only hating on the group and their music because they see them as a real threat with how popular they've gotten recently. But I do stan the Boyz, so that's probably a biased opinion. For a lot of the other groups on this list, I can genuinely understand the reasoning behind people thinking they fell off, but I cannot see a single valid reason for thinking the same thing about the Boyz, and overall, I do not think the Boyz have fallen off at all, not even in the slightest.
Yeah, I'm tomboy.
Up next, we have I.dle, also known as G-I-DLE, who people think have been falling off ever since the release of Oh My God. And as the resident tomboy enjoyer, I definitely disagree. Contrary to the Boyz and TWICE, I feel like I.dle started out really strong and they've stayed strong all throughout their entire career. I do think their comebacks that aren't singles tend to have 1 or 2 skips on them, but they always have at least a handful of really strong tracks to go along with it. I don't think I.dle have fallen off because no matter what they do, they always somehow manage to make it unique, and somehow, every single time they have a comeback, it stands out from the crowd in a really good way. When it comes down to it, I think you have to give most of the credit to the producers within I.dle, but mostly Soyeon, because her level of artistry is Genuinely just out of this world, and something that you don't see from 99% of other K-pop groups. At the very least, Tomboy is gonna go down as one of the top 10 most iconic comebacks of the year, if not top 5. And the album too has to be one of their strongest comebacks holistically. I know I-dle's rapping has been under a lot of fire because it's become a lot more trendy than it used to be, but I still do think all of the raps fit well in the context of the song that they're in. And also, My Bag is one of my favorite B-sides of the year. That song is just too good. I mean, at the end of the day, people are either gonna love or hate I-dle, it's not really up to me. But personally, I'm definitely a G-I-dle enjoyer, and that hasn't changed ever since I've gotten into them. Next up for this video, we're going to be talking about Blackpink, and people have been saying that they've fallen off ever since they released Kill This Love. And I personally would never say that they've fallen off when their last comeback as a full group, the album, is their best release to date, at least to me. I know within K-pop YouTube this is kind of unpopular, but I do think How You Like That is one of their best title tracks ever, and I'm also a pretty big fan of Ice Cream as well. As for Lovesick Girls, I am kind of indifferent, but I wouldn't say it's their worst title track. And out of the 8 songs on that album, still don't know how they called it a full album by the way, the only one that I would skip would be Crazy Over You. Yes, it has been like 2 years since their last comeback as a full group, so people are losing a lot of interest in them, and then people also didn't really like Lisa or Rosé's solo debuts, so that just made things even worse. But if we're looking at Blackpink as a full group, their last comeback was one of their strongest, and in my opinion, their strongest to date, so I personally would not say that they've fallen off in the slightest. Would I complain if they released more music like Playing With Fire and As If It's Your Last? Definitely not, but I was totally satisfied with their 2020 run, and now I just need them to have an actual comeback. I'm just gonna keep this short and sweet. Ever since their first comeback, people have been saying that MCND have fallen off. But the thing is, they just announced a comeback and they're releasing a pre-release track literally tomorrow, and the teasers already sound so good, so they're about to prove to everybody that they haven't fallen off. And if their pre-release track already sounds this good, then just imagine how good the actual comeback's gonna be. Thank you for listening to my shameless MCND promotion, and without further ado, let's talk about the next group. So, switch of plans, we're actually going to be talking about a soloist, Chungha, who people have been saying has fallen off ever since like Play, I think. And before we move on, I just want to ask everybody listening, did you listen to her full album? Did you listen to Carencia? Because if you didn't, then you should, because then you'll see that Chungha did not fall off even in the slightest. To be honest, pre-Carencia, her B-sides were not my favorite, but that full album definitely proved me wrong. I mean, her song Bother Me alone outsold so many other groups' entire discographies, and though she doesn't release songs like Roller Coaster anymore, I really do enjoy the musical evolution she's gone through. I also think Chungha is kind of trying the promotional style of a Western artist, and she's actually coming back over a year later with another full album in July. And if it's even like 3/4 as good as Carencia, then there's just no saying that she fell off. There's no way. And finally for this video, we have ITZY. And people have started hating their music ever since Not Shy era, but Mafia in the Morning is when people really started saying they fell off. And listen, I understand where people are coming from. The ITZY title tracks that I go back to most often are Dala Dala and Icy, which were their first two. But hear me out. The only ITZY B-sides I'm ever listening to are from the Loco and Mafia in the Morning albums, with the exception of Cherry and 24 Hours. Like, yes, their title tracks might not be as good as their older ones, but their B-sides have literally gotten better every single time. I don't know, call me delusional, but the Mafia in the Morning album is literally no skip besides the title track, and I have like a majority of the Loco album saved, but don't worry, Gas Me Up is forever in the gutter. That might be their worst song ever. So like, if you think ITZY have fallen off, do I really blame you? Not 100%, but do I think you're wrong? Yeah, I do. And that concludes this video. If you think there are any other groups that a lot of people say have fallen off but you disagree, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. And also let me know what you thought of my video and my commentary. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you again so much for watching, and peace out.